have all the board members stand up just for a minute. Just so you can see them, because when they're like, hey, person, you're like, I have no idea who that is. So I am here speaking on behalf of them. We had a board meeting this past week, and we made the motion to do this unanimously, not anonymously. So I'm going to read something, and then we'll go into it. So how many of you have noticed, you guys can be seated now, how many of you have noticed that there was a lot of changes at Mount Hope this year? Like you had to climb up in some cabins to get into the cabins instead of like rolling into them because there's steps. Yeah, so I'll read this to you. All right, Gary and Martha Rucker. Gary was a former board member that some of you who have been around for a while probably remember, but they faithfully served at Mount Hope Bible Camp for many years. Gary served as board president of the Ohio Bible Conference when their health permitted it, and sometimes when it didn't. Both were regular fixtures at the camp. Gary was usually here between 5 and 6 a.m. That's a.m. for all you teens. Carrying around a ladder and fixing just about anything that was broken. He was the project leader during the construction of the Berry Activity Center. That's where you guys had food today. The girls' shower house. The ladies here can appreciate that. Solomon's porch, Rachel and Leah, and the rebuilding of Ruth and Naomi, and the regular maintenance of Hannah's promise. The Ruckers are known for their love for God, their love for others, especially youth, and their love for Mount Hope Bible Camp. Gary's favorite saying regarding the projects at the camp was, "Let's make it shine." If you've been here in the past, you know that there's been a lot of effort put into the camp this year to do just that. The camp board, along with numerous volunteers, have worked hard to make the camp facilities better than they've ever been. In honor of Gary, we were trying to make it shine. In fact, that saying was repeated throughout a lot of board meetings and a lot of our work days. Tonight, we would like to recognize one of the people who made that possible. When we started talking about jacking up cabins and putting new structures under them, most of the people looked at us like we were crazy. Well, because we are. However, one accepted the challenge and was a leader in making it possible to raise Queen Esther, Hannah's Promise, Daniel's Den, David's Court, and Caleb's Mountain. He was here countless hours and sacrificed many weekends to make camp possible this year. In fact, we were here one night on a Sunday, jacking up the building that you're in right now and hand mixing concrete and pouring concrete so that it would be ready for camp. Like Gary, he usually was one of the first ones here and one of the last ones to leave. He loves God, he loves others, especially youth, and he loves Mount Hope Bible Camp. He has done all this while also caring for his wife, who has been mostly confined to a bed for the past year. So tonight, we want to honor Charlie Wickersham with the first time Rucker Recognition of Service Award. Charlie, will you come up? So with the award comes a hat, because if you knew Gary, you knew he always had a hat. So Charlie, will you try on your hat? The Rucker Recognition of Service Award to Charlie Wickersham for his dedication, integrity, and service. It was exemplified by the lifelong devotion to Christ the Lord in the service at Mount Hope Bible Camp by Gary and Martha Rucker. And on it is a pair of work boots. And here in just a second, I'm going to ask Brett to come and share that with you. So, Charlie, we love you, and we definitely appreciate all your work.
Read the reason why there are work boots on the plaque real quick. How many of you know a guy by the name of Mickey Bain? missionary speaker for us for years. Mickey Bain has a boy named Nick. Anybody know Nick? Some of the older folks will. One year, Nick decided that he was going to come, and he wanted to work in Malho Bible Camp, but he wanted to actually come ahead of time and help us get things prepared for camp. And so he actually called and said, "Hey, Brett, could I come to work?" And Gary was here at the time getting things ready. I asked Gary, I said, "Gary, could you use the help?" And he said, "Absolutely." So they drive all the way up from Tennessee. Mickey drops Nick off, or actually starts to drop him off, pulls in the driveway, and Nick gets out in his shorts and t-shirt and like boat shoes. And Gary Rucker turns to Nick and says, "You get back in that car, you tell your dad to go take you to someplace and get you some man shoes, and then you can come back and work with me." And I don't know if Mickey even knew what to do. In fact, that's exactly what they did. Nick got back in the car, and Mickey took him to Portsmouth, grabbed him some work boots, came back, and worked. I was talking to Mickey actually today, and he was kind of refreshing the story in my mind. And Mickey's like, Gary said, "Go get you some man shoes," and then Gary just walked off. And you just would have had to have known Gary. But the thing about Gary Rucker is when Nick came back that week, Mickey even told me the story. They were digging posts for one of the stairs in the sense of the cabins. And Gary said, "Nick, make sure you measure twice." And Nick said, okay. So I guess Nick's pulling out the measure. He thinks he's got it together, and he's digging all the holes. Well, I guess Gary's seen that he didn't really check his measurement, but didn't tell him. And so Nick digs all of the holes for the entire deck and the steps, and it doesn't work out. And so Gary says, "Nick, I guess there's only one thing to do. You fill them back in and redig them." And he did. And Nick told Mick and shared with a lot of us that was one of the hardest weeks of his life. But it's also one of the most memorable. Because not only did Gary work hard and contribute a lot to the ministry of Malho Bible Camp, he had a love for kids and a love for mentoring folks just like Nick. And I can say the same thing about Charlie. Honestly, Charlie didn't just help build decks. You know what he also did? He went with us to Sam's the other day and picked up all the food that you guys are eating. I mean, Charlie has been hands-on in every aspect, getting things ready, and he does it because he loves y'all. And so, again, Charlie, congratulations.